Welcome to the EOB Podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Benno, and joining me is Sen Duong. Hey Sen, so we had the Legend of Tarzan, the Purge election year, and the BFG that opened
last weekend,
the 4th of July weekend. Yes.
Should we do the 4-day numbers or the 3-day?
Well, I think we could do the 4-day since we're on the 4 days. Since it's Tuesday, we're doing it.
Yeah, right.
Right. So we were on a holiday. We took a break yesterday. So for that one of you who is listening, sorry for the delay. Okay. So we made some predictions. We thought that out of the 3 new releases, The Legend of Tarzan has the biggest stud potential.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money. It costs 180 million to make, and we thought, hey, there's a better Tarzan movie that was out, and it's called The Jungle Book.
Right.
And then the third Purge movie, we're wondering, another Purge.
Right.
But we took a look at the previous 2 Purge movies and saying, hey, those movies did pretty well. We expect the sequel to do worse, but no, it actually did about the same or even better than the first Purge movie. And we had some projection about that movie. And then the Steven Spielberg's the BFG, which is based on a novel.
Well, we were right though. We were right that there will be a dud, but it wasn't the one we expected. Let's get it going.
So, okay. Coming in number 1 is the Pixar's Finding Dory. We're doing the 4-day weekend, right?
Yeah.
It pulled in 50 million over 4 days, experienced only a 31% drop off, which we expected to hold well, the movie. And, domestic, it already grossed 380 million, and the worldwide take is 548, 167 of that overseas.
Right. For the 3rd straight week, Finding Nemo is number 1 again. Finding Dory. Yeah, Finding Dory is number 1 again. And it's pacing well above, the other. I think this is, again, one of the best third weekend figures in box office history. And it's pacing way ahead of films that have opened similarly well, like Toy Story 3 or Shrek 2. Both of those films ended up grossing more than 400 million. And this one looks like it's going to be a level above that. It's already at 380. It looks like it'll probably end up doing 500 or more.
Yeah, as we said in the previous podcast, it's ahead of Toy Story 3 in the same time frame. By the way, it's going to end up as Pixar's highest grossing animation.
Yeah, right. In another week, it'll probably end up being the top grossing film. So Pixar continues to do well.
Oh yeah, they're returning to its former glory. Remember there's this weak spot that they experienced with Brave, Good Dinosaur, Cars 2. I'm not sure if you want to lump Monster University in there or not, but
No, Monster University did. It was well reviewed, decently well reviewed, and it did well at the box office, so I wouldn't put that there.
Okay. But there was this spot that they hit, which was kind of low, and people were wondering about their fall. Worry about their fall in quality.
Right.
And it seems like they found their footing again.
Yeah, most of it started with Cars 2, and then Brave. Brave was kind of solid, but it wasn't as well reviewed.
Yeah, that's when all of the reviews starting to pour in. The poor reviews, people were wondering, hey, the lineup's not as strong anymore. What's happening?
Right.
Is it John Lasseter?
Yeah, because Cars 2 was the worst. On Rotten Tomatoes, it was like 35%. It's like by far their worst review film. And then Brave wasn't too bad, although compared to their Brave was like 75% on Rotten Tomatoes at the time, and which, if you're not Pixar, is a solid film. But because of Pixar, who their films generally are like 90% or better on Rotten Tomatoes. So 75%, even though if you compare to your average animated film is very good, or your average film. But when you compare it to Pixar's stellar lineup of animated films, it was pretty bad. And then later you have The Good Dinosaur, which is one of the lowest grossing films. But again, not that poor. It was decently reviewed, like around 75%. But it didn't do well at the box office. That quality of animation and commercial success isn't as consistent as they used to be.
Right. They used to be like the standard in animation and storytelling, right? And people love it.
Yeah.
But then, there's this, I guess you can sense the fall in quality, and that's why people were questioning it. I mean, even with Brave, you say the reviews were in the 70s. You get a sense that people kind of don't like it, but kind of afraid. I mean, there's nothing exceptional about it. It was okay.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about Pixar quality, it's nothing that wows you.
Yeah, it's exactly as it looks. 75% good, but not great. And people are used to seeing greatness from Pixar.
Exactly.
And when they get good, it's like, it's not good enough.
Right. If Brave was released by, something like Fox, for example, that's within the range,
or
right?
DreamWorks.
Okay, yeah, it's from Fox. Yeah, it's a good movie, right?
Or any other studio. People would be like, hey, it's decent. But Pixar is like, good is not good enough.
Right. Okay, so anyway, Finding Dory, surprisingly, because it's a sequel, and people thought, hey, is there another movie in this? And I guess there is, and it's going to become Pixar's highest grossing movie.
Yeah, right. And even after, was it 20 years?
I'm not sure.
It's been a long time between sequels, and it looks like people love this film, this franchise. Even though the director, Andrew Stanton, said that there will not be another film.
Well, John Carter will change it.
Yeah. If he makes another John Carter, he might have to do Finding Marlin. I don't know.
Right. Or the Turtle spin-off. Hey, a real Turtles movie, right? Yeah.
Oh, or right now, what looks more likely is the Octopus spin-off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, since he's the most popular character in Finding Dory. Well, the most popular side character.
Okay, he's the one that sold the most toys. Okay, I understand.
You're right.
All right, how about we move along to number 2?
Okay.
The Legend of Tarzan, surprisingly, right?
Yeah.
We both weren't very high on the movie. We thought it would bomb. I mean, the budget is 180 million. You had it at about 18 million. I said 20 to 25, but it surprised both of us. 45.5 million over 4 days.
Yeah, and it surprised others in the industry too. No one was predicting, 45.5 million. And it was poorly reviewed too. It was like 35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
But, it had a certain cinema score of A-, which is above average. So there's something about this film that audiences like.
Well, it's probably the star, Alexander Skarsgård. I mean, if you break down the audience percentages, I think most of them are female.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the case. Could be. Maybe he's getting all the women to get up.
Yeah, because he's very popular in True Blood, that TV show. With him, as a vampire.
Oh, okay. I see. You sure those women aren't going for Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah. Anyway, there's that element too. There's Sam Jackson's fans, right?
Yeah.
But Alexander Skarsgård, shirtless.
Right. Could be.
Both of us were wrong. A lot of box office pundits were wrong. I mean, I think they were predicting somewhere in the 35 million range.
Yeah.
But it scored higher than that. But even that, right? The budget is 180 million.
Yeah.
You probably want to open up in the 50s, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing with these films. I mean, a lot of it is based on expectations, and everyone's expectations were low for this film. They think it's gonna bomb, and it did better than what people expected. But nonetheless, if you look at its budget, it's not gonna make 180 million. Even like you said, at 45.7 million, even though it's did better than people expected, it still will be a disappointment unless it has legs in the following weeks.
Which I don't think it will, because I expect this movie to, I guess because of Skarsgård's fans, I think it's going to experience a huge drop-off in the second weekend. I don't think it'll make up its 180 million budget domestic.
Yeah, I don't either. It did have a good cinema score, so it has that thing going for it.
Yeah, but then we have the movies coming out. The other movies coming out, competition from the real summer movies.
Yeah, that's the thing. You could be right on. We don't know until next week. Who knows? Maybe it'll continue to surprise us or not. But I think even at 45.7 million, it's gonna be tough to make back 180. Because you have films that open at 50 million and still only end up with like 130. So like you said, this might be front loaded because of all the women who went out to watch this.
Yeah, we'll see the coming week, and we'll know for sure. I mean, I think it will experience a huge drop off. And then it's kind of like Independence Day. I feel. We'll see. Has its fans, and then it'll drop.
Okay, let's move on to number 3. The Purge election year, it did 34.8 million on a budget of just 10 million. It's the only qualified hit of the weekend's new releases. It did just as well as the previous 2 films, and the reviews were better than the previous 2 films, and the cinema score was decent too, I think.
Let's see, the reviews for election year is 54%. And the cinema score for election year is a B+.
B+, which is I think 1 level higher than the previous ones. I think the previous ones were getting C's. And B+ is for a horror film, horror thriller, it's actually very good.
Yeah, it's kind of like a better than bad kind of thing. But these genre films, horror movies especially,
tend to get grades of C, which is below average. So a B+ compared to other films in this genre is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
It pulled in 35 million over the 4 days weekend, and it didn't experience much of a drop off from the previous movies. I mean, what do you think it is? That people just want to see, I guess people go wild and bash people in, or maybe like you say, it's because it's so topical, the election year.
Yeah, I think part of it is topical. This year's election fits right into the over the top, the craziness of this year's election. When you see, like what's going on in the election with Donald Trump, and you watch the Purge, you're like, hey, it's not that far off. You wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump pulls one of these things, but hey.
Or do you think it's that the Purge gave us something new to the horror genre? Before the horror is kind of like a monster, right? Or something else inexplainable, all these spiritual stuff. But the Purge is more like humans, putting on masks and just, wrecking everything, killing people. So it's something different in the horror genre.
Well, yeah, it does have an interesting premise. One day of the year, hey, all crime is legal. It does have an interesting premise.
Right. I mean, your friend could be out to kill you, right? Yeah. Your family members could be out to kill you.
Right. So it does have an interesting premise, and it is topical, but we're not sure how much longer this is gonna go.
Yeah, well, it's made for 10 million.
Yeah.
Jason Blum is salivating. How can I replicate the Purge?
Yeah. Nothing lasts forever. Even the paranormal activity films, they just keep on cranking them out. But I think by the 4th or 5th one, it definitely show a huge drop off. So we'll see.
Yeah, but they already made the money back. I mean, much more than they expected,
Oh, yeah. There's nothing bad about it. I'm just saying that every one of these franchises eventually does have an end.
Yeah, right.
And like the paranormal activities, like the first 3 films have all opened really well, like 40 to 50 million. And then by the 3rd film, there was like a huge drop. I mean, by the 4th film. And of course, they've already made a buttload of money. And there's nothing about a franchise ending.
Yeah, the only one that seems to go on forever is the Fast and Furious franchise, right? The others.
Yeah, the Purge, I'm not sure how much longer they can go with this though. This year, it is topical. The outrageousness, the craziness of the Purge, the craziness of the premise seem even more relevant now with the outrageousness of the current election. So it's kind of topical. It fits right in with that premise.
We'll think that's what it is.
Yeah. Obviously, based on its success, we're going to see another one, and we'll see how topical they can continue to get.
Yeah, I say that a series won't kind of like quote unquote jump the shark, until it takes place in space. Okay, so The Purge surprised everyone again, even though we were predicting a successful movie. I think we had it at 30 million, and you had it 40 opening.
Yeah.
So we were right there.
Yeah, you were right there. I was kind of slightly over, but not too far off. Not as far off as Legend of Tarzan. Okay, speaking of far off, I was pretty far off on the BFG too, which came in at number 4 over the weekend at 22.3 million. It's directed by Steven Spielberg. It's a fantasy film book adaptation of a children's book about giants. And the budget is 140 million, so we have a Steven Spielberg bomb, which is very weird.
Okay, so you were projecting the movie to pull in about 45 over 4 days, and I said about 35.
That number, I accidentally misplaced it for BFG, but I was intending it for Legend of Tarzan.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
Yeah, so I was way off. I was way off on those two films.
Yeah, like I said in the previous podcast, there's something off about this movie. It's tame, and it's British. That spells trouble for this movie, and it kind of bears it out. And although I'm higher, I project the movie to open higher because of its pedigree. Spielberg, all special effects, Disney. I projected it high.
I'm not sure about the British element because Paddington did do surprisingly well. Even though it's a children's film and it's based on a property that's more popular in England. So I'm not sure how much that has to do with it. But your other points are right though. Maybe, it's just one of these films that doesn't stand out, even though I thought the visuals stand out. I thought it was different.
Yeah, but then you also have to look at what else is in theaters, right?
Yeah.
There's Finding Dory. That's targeting the same group.
Yeah, I think that's the main problem for this. Finding Dory is doing exceptionally well. People were expecting it to do well, but probably not this well. For a film that was the highest grossing film in Pixar's history until Toy Story 3, it still ended up surprising people. It did a lot better than even people's most optimistic projections. And so maybe that's the thing. And they're both released by Disney. That's probably the main problem.
Right. And remember I said that Spielberg's name doesn't hold much weight in this movie? I think I'm kind of onto something there. I mean, when's the last Spielberg movie that you were wowed by?
I don't know about not holding much weight, and what else was there attracting audiences? Let's say if they didn't have the Spielberg name on the BFG, do you think it would still do 22 million?
Probably.
I don't think so, though. I mean, Spielberg wasn't exactly, for the last decade, he's been doing mostly history films. Lincoln was hugely successful. It won Oscars. It did like more than 200 million. He's gotten more serious. And even Warhorse did better than I expected. I didn't expect that film to do 80 million and be nominated for the Oscars. And what was his last one? His last history film?
Bridge of Spies.
Yeah, even Bridge of Spies ended up winning an Oscar and did, better than expected. So I wouldn't say that his name doesn't hold any weight.
What I'm saying is that his name doesn't hold. Okay, hear me out. Okay, so he's been focusing his movies on the more serious adult crowd films, right?
Yeah.
And that his name, like teens, the young set, are not that aware of his movies. He hasn't done anything much for them recently.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, kids they're not going to look at Steven Spielberg and say, oh, yeah, I want to go watch a Spielberg movie. I mean, this is more for adults. And, I think that right now his sensibility is more serious adult films. And Spielberg returning to kind of a children family movie, it's kind of, I think, like I say, it's kind of like a neutral to me. That's why I asked you, like, when's the last Spielberg movie that you're wowed by? I said, wow, I'm excited to see a Spielberg movie. Something like the Indiana Jones movies, something like the Jurassic Park movies.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, in the past decade, he's been doing more historical dramas. I can see your point that, hey, because he's been focusing on that, his audience members are more that way. But, I disagree with the Steven Spielberg name doesn't hold a weight. I mean, you mentioned Steven Spielberg. Everyone knows who he is. It could just be one of those things where it still had huge competition with Finding Dory. They're going for the same audience. It's released by the same studio too. That could be it. But saying that Steven Spielberg's name doesn't hold weight anymore, I think it's like too much based on the performance of one film. It could just be, hey, this film, like you said, doesn't appeal to people rather than the director. If Spielberg's name wasn't attached to this, I wonder if, it would have done even less.
Yeah, we'll find out with his next movie. I'm saying that's where it's trending, where he's a well-regarded director, but it's not like his movie excites people anymore. When people hear say, "Oh, Spielberg's working on this movie," they say, "Oh, I look forward to that movie." But I don't get that sense from him anymore.
Well, it depends on the kind of movie, though. He isn't working on fanboy films in the past decade. There's only so much excitement you can bring to Lincoln. But obviously, a lot of people ended up seeing it. How much excitement you can get from like Warhorse or Bridge of Spies. But he ended up making all those films not only box office successes, but also award winners. But if he does another film for the fanboys, like people are very excited for What's one of his upcoming movies that is more for the fanboys?
Well, I think he's doing another Indiana Jones, but who knows?
Wait, is he?
Well, he is attached, but he's always going to be directing Indiana Jones, really.
I mean, people are very excited about Robopocalypse, for instance, but
if that one gets made, that one has been in development forever, and
yeah, but you know what I'm saying. When he puts his name in a genre film, people are very excited because those are the kind of films that people talk about. But if he continues to make historical dramas, fanboys aren't into that.
Well, you have to see what gets greenlit too for him. I mean, even though he still has to get the money to make the movie, right? I mean, for example, Robopocalypse, right? I mean, I heard about that movie since forever.
Yeah.
And it was ready to go, but they pulled out because it was too expensive. And he has to go back and try to get it cheaper. Rewrite the script to make it cheaper. So I don't know where that one's going. And if they go by his recent track record, right? If you're an investor and say, his movies are doing kind of the BFG levels, you'll be concerned.
Yeah, but you also have to look at the genre of films that he's decided that he's making, right? But I mean, if he makes, an action adventure sci-fi film, I'm sure those kind of films will generate a lot more excitement from the fanboys, and they'll probably make more money. But I don't think anyone's looking at Bridge of Spies and thinking, or even Warhorse or Lincoln, thinking like, oh, these films are gonna gross like Lincoln did like 200 million. I don't think anyone expected a film about Lincoln to do 200 million. The thing with those films is, like Bridge of Spies and Warhorse, he made them for relatively cheap. There's that. But if he does a genre film and it still does 22 million level, then you can say, Spielberg's no longer the draw that he used to be.
Well, I'm just saying, you'll be surprised because one of his signature is that his films are very polished. And you can kind of get that with these current crop of movies, these current crop of directors where, it's all special effects. I think we're getting better and better, and, that's not something that's separating him from the other end anymore. His only advantage is, like I say, his storytelling. It's not the polished look anymore. So, like you say, we'll wait until his next movie to find out if there's a trend to this.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 5, Independence Day Resurgence. Made 20 million. It's like a 51% drop off, and after 2 weeks, it's made 76 million at a budget of 165 million. So here's another, like we talked about already, another sequel that had a disappointing performance at the box office. Worldwide, the worldwide figure is at 251 million. Not sure how much better it's going to do. But at 165 million, it needs to grow, 350 to 400 million worldwide to break even. I'm not sure how Y has been released. I don't think it's been released in China yet, right?
Yeah, it has been, but it's only like for a week or two. It says here 37 or 38 million.
That's not looking that good because China's always front loaded, so if it doesn't make 100 million after the first couple of weeks, but 38 million is probably as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, Independence Day, they try to make a movie without Will Smith. They try to bring in Liam Hemsworth and all those new people. Brought back Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman,
all the secondary characters pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, who want to watch an Independence Day without Will Smith? And I guess they found out.
Right. Also in China, looks like Independence Day is topping out at 70 million. So I guess you can add another 30 million to its total, which will make it around 300 million. It still has about 100 million to 50 to 100 million to gross in order to break even. And it looks like it could get there.
Yeah, I mean, you expect a Independence Day sequel to
do a billion.
Have a worldwide gross.
Yeah, to do a billion.
If not a billion, maybe 500 million, because it's such a well-known movie.
Yeah, this is pretty disappointing for Fox. I read that this is like a reboot, or you told me that this is like a reboot and they plan multiple films.
Oh, not a reboot. This is that before it was they planned 2 movies. Break it down. Because of the story, it takes 2 movies to tell, and then I guess because of budget or maybe because Will Smith is not there, they cut it down to 1.
Okay. Well, they're not gonna get another one.
Okay. It will get rebooted. Yeah, if this is not one of those sequel reboots, it will.
I'm not even sure they're gonna reboot it now.
Everything gets recycled, Sen. That's the way of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along. Number 6, Central Intelligence. It pulled in 15 million over 4 days. Experienced a about 18% drop off in its third weekend. And it made 94 million domestic so far. And budget is 50 million. That's one of the, I guess, hits this summer.
Yeah, one of the sleeper hits of the summer. Again, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Kevin Hart. This is one of those you put one and one together and you get 3.
Yeah, Central Intelligence, it's one of these buddy action comedies, as formula as they come. But hey, people like to watch these type of movies once in a while.
Yeah, surprisingly well reviewed for the kind of film it is.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the teaming works, they're great, regardless how formulaic they are. And as you say, we will expect a Central Intelligence 2 with both of them coming back.
Yeah.
Because they're not picky.
Yeah. And 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is probably one of Kevin Hart's better review films in a while. And probably one of The Rock's better review films in a while too, with the exception of maybe the latest Fast and Furious films.
Right.
So let's move on to another surprise hit of the summer. Modest hit, The Shadows, a thriller. It grows 8.8 million. Over the weekend, drop off is like 48%. After 2 weeks, it grows 35 million on a budget of just 17 million. It's pretty well reviewed, I think. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's 74%. Maybe it's because of the Purge election years. It's not holding up as well as I thought would be based on the reviews. But 48% drop off for thriller sexual film is not too bad.
It's a 38% drop off. So I think it held up decent considering it's a genre film, dark attack movie. I thought the drop off would probably be larger, typical horror film drop off, 50s, 60s.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I was looking at the 3-day figures. Okay, all right. Yeah, so that's good. 38% drop off is pretty good. So the 4-day figure is actually 10.5 million. All right, continue.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's one of these hits because of its budget and how well it's doing at the box office. And
it's well reviewed.
Yeah, it's well reviewed, surprisingly. We weren't high on this movie because, hey, like Lively, she's not a huge star, she's not that big of a draw, but, she's one of these minor actresses that can carry a film as long as it's decently budgeted with The Age of Adeline and...
Yeah, Age of Adeline was, surprisingly decent. So she's building up an audience and she looks like a, up-and-coming star.
Well, she's big on TV, but, it hasn't really translated to the movies yet.
It's kind of translating into movies now. I mean, she has a couple solid, modest hits in a row. I can see from this, the studios will probably start putting her into bigger A-list films. After a couple modest successes, studios are probably thinking, hey, I think she might be ready to be in a big budget A-list film.
Okay, let's see what else she has up her sleeves. The next one is Cafe Society for her, which is coming out in July.
You mean this month?
Yep, this month.
Is it an indie film or a big...
It's a Woody Allen film.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of an indie...
It has Steve Carell, Jesse Eisenberg,
yes,
Parker Posey, Kristen Stewart. By Woody Allen, it's probably going to be well reviewed. It's going to do decent at the box office.
It's an indie movie, so Woody Allen films, if it makes like anywhere from 25 to 50 million, is considered a huge success. So it's not going to be one of those big blockbuster films.
No.
But anyway, should we move on to number 8?
Yeah, okay. Moving along to number 8 is A Free State of Jones. In the second weekend, it pulled in 5 million over 4 days. Held up okay-ish, about 33% drop off, but it didn't open well. So that's why it only made about 60 million domestic. It's one of those films that has a good cast, directed by Gary Ross, who did Hunger Games, and stars Matthew McConaughey. And it's one of these kind of Western drama thrillers. Not a lot of people are clamoring to see.
And at a budget of 50 million, it's going to lose money for the film's investors. But for STX, who picked up the rights for just 10 million, they might make a profit.
Yeah, Hollywood accounting. You never know how much people pay for what.
Yeah.
So it might look like a bomb, but they might make money.
Yeah. The distributor STX might make money. The investors will lose money.
Yeah. Someone always makes money, but we don't know who.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 9, The Conjuring 2, another horror film in the top 10 that is doing well. It grossed 4.6 million over the weekend, a drop off of 41%, and after 4 weeks, it's already grossed 96 million on a budget of just 40 million. Didn't do as well as the first film. I think the first film grossed 140 million at the domestic box office. This one looked like they'll probably do 105, 110. But compared to the other sequels over the summer, it did pretty well. At a budget of just 40 million, it's going to make a huge profit for WB.
Mm-hmm. And, worldwide take is 275. It's doing
really well.
Continues to do well domestic. It continues to do well overseas. As you say, we're going to see a Conjuring 3.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to a sequel that isn't doing nearly as well. At number 10 is Now You See Me 2. Did 3.6 million. After 4 weeks, it has already grossed 59 million at the box office, which is very disappointing considering the budget is like 75 to 80 million. And considering the first film did like 110 or 120 million at the domestic box office, did a bit better worldwide.
Did a lot better.
Yeah, a lot better. Yeah. A lot better. The worldwide figure is 215 million. Of course, a decent chunk of that is from China. Let me see what's the latest figure in China. Oh, okay. A huge chunk of that is in China. It grows 86 million in China. Which is a hit. I think it did better than the first film. So, hey, it's another one of those films that disappointed domestically, but the worldwide figure is making up for the domestic figure. Let me see how the first film did in the international market. Oh, okay. The first film did 234 million worldwide overseas. The worldwide figure is 351 million. But you know what? At a budget of 75 to 80 million, it's going to make a profit worldwide. Worldwide is at 215. Sure, it's making money at a worldwide level, but compared to the first film, it's pretty far off.
Yeah, so you're concerned if there is a sequel or not.
Yeah.
Because domestic take...
very disappointing.
A huge... I mean, it's not just off, it's like way off.
Yeah.
I think almost half, right? Almost half the take.
Yeah.
And normally, I mean, if there's no overseas market, if you bring up a sequel, they're going to, shut the door on you.
Yeah.
Yes,
but because of the
but there is an international market though.
Yeah.
There is an international market, but that's down too. I mean,
Yeah.
overseas that's off from the first movie as well. So they have a decision to make.
Right. If they make it, it'll just be for the overseas market. And if they make it, it's probably mostly for China because half of the 155 million came from China.
Right.
And I can see them saying, you know what, we'll slash the budget to 50 million and crank out another one, but I'm not sure if anyone else wants to return.
Well, they just get Chinese actors. Why not? Because this is for the Chinese market anyway, right?
Yeah.
All right. So another sequel for Now You See Me is in doubt because it's, the take is decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
No big loss, really, right? They made the sequel because, the first one did so well.
Yeah.
And they managed to make another one, which is, I see that as a success. They're going to make money on this movie.
They're going to make money on it, even though it's not doing nearly as well as they wanted to do or expected. It might be one of these things where they project that, hey, the first film made 350 million worldwide. The second film looks like it's going to have trouble making 250. So they might project that, hey, maybe the next film will drop to 100 million worldwide. Who knows, right?
Right.
And at 100 million worldwide, they're like, is it still worth it? Because even at 50 million, 100 million worldwide will just kind of like a break even. So then it's like, is another one worth it, even if you slash the budget to 50 million? Probably not.
Yeah. So it's no big loss, really. They just put the money into something else with more potential. So
Yeah. So, they'll still make a profit on this one, but they'll probably not invest in another one.
Okay, so we will keep you up to date on whether there's a sequel or not.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing of note, remember you say that you were surprised that they haven't made a movie on Clifford, that big red dog? Well, past weekend, the news come out that they are making a movie on the big red dog. Okay, top 10, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
How about we move on to the new openings this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Joining the fray is Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. It's the comedy starring Zac Efron and Adam Devine with Anna Kendricks and Aubrey Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the animation Secret Life of Pets from Universal.
Where do you want to go first?
Let's go with Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates.
Okay. I think it's gonna bomb because Zac Efron has been bombing even in his sequels. In these similarly themed frat boy comedies. So I think it's gonna continue his trend.
You might be right, but I think it might do a bit better than what you're thinking. And you are right that Zac Efron's not doing well with these type of movies. And with Mike and Dave, it seems like they're rehashing the movies with who's the other pair?
The wedding.
Yeah, the Wedding Crashers. Except they're doing a new twist on this, where instead of them behaving badly, it's the woman behaving badly. It's kind of like what they did with Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. It's kind of like, okay, let's have the woman behaving badly instead of the guys doing badly. So it's kind of like they're trying to do a new twist on an old formula.
And it didn't work for Neighbors 2, so I wonder how well it's going to work for this one.
I'm saying Zac Efron's too good looking for comedies.
Right. I wonder why they're not putting him in just straight romantic comedies anymore.
I think he's just trying to go against the trend. It's kind of like who's the other guy?
Well, Matthew McConaughey did that for a while and did pretty well. And then
but even then he say, I don't want to be typecast.
Yeah. But you see, the great thing with him is he's already collected like $420 million paycheck before he's like, now I'm gonna stop winning Oscars.
Right, and he did, and now he's in like the Free State of Jones, these type of movies where
that might push him back into romantic comedies. So I'm thinking Mike and Dave, the wedding days will do less than $5 million.
Whoa, less than 5. Oh, okay. I think it's gonna. Okay, let me be a bit more optimistic. Okay, let me be the contrarian. I'm gonna say 15 to 20.
15 to 20? Whoa.
15 to 20.
Dude, all right. Let me see what XSX says. I think you're way off though.
There's a spot for comedies. Even though Zac Efron's not doing that well, I mean, they have Anna Kendrick.
I'm not sure if she's a huge draw though.
But she's off the Pitch Perfect sequels.
So XSX has it at in between our figures, I think.
So 10.
I think it might be like around 15. Yeah, they have it at around 15 to about 16 million. Yeah, which is closer to
about where I had it.
So you guys might be right and I might be the only one. Yeah, I'm going 5. Not feeling it. Not feeling Zac Efron.
All right.
After his string of bombs.
Okay. I mean, just Anna Kendrick's continuing her string of movies where, it's just pretty much women behaving badly with the other female quote-unquote empowerment movies. Like switching roles. All right, so we have that. And how about The Secret Life of Pets? It's from, I guess, the same people who did the Minions movies, right?
Yeah, I think so. So far, the reviews are pretty good. 85% on Rotten Tomatoes after 26 reviews. Solid numbers. The Minions guys, Universal's animation department has been on a roll. And, there's Kevin Hart in the voice cast. And Kevin Hart's always dependable, always reliable. But they're still finding Dory.
Well, you expect it to drop off a bit.
Yeah, you expect it to drop off a bit by its, 4th week.
And you are betting that Mike and Dave wouldn't be doing that well.
Yeah, I'm going with 40 million.
40 million for Secret Life of Pets. You know what? I'm betting on cute because, I've seen the trailers, with other people and they're laughing at the trailer. So, I think there's interest in the movie with the target audience. Characters are cute. It seems like they made the toys first. And then they made a movie around them. So I think it's gonna do a bit better than 40.
The only thing is there's like Zootopia came out first. That's my only thing. And they did gangbusters.
Yeah, Zootopia was then, but this is another movie that they can take the kids to. And school's out. Animation, family films. A good time for family films. Animation in particular, right? And I think it's going to do probably around 50.
50? Okay. I'm going one level below. Since we were talking about XSX, let's see what they have. Secret Life Pets. Wow, they have it at
80?
Yeah, they have it at 80.
Wow, okay. Well, they are promoting it as from the people who made Minions, Despicable Me. So they know what they're getting, what they're expecting. So I can see it. Because like Minions open to what, 115 or so?
Yeah. But that's because of Despicable Me
tie-in.
Yeah. And I see this as kind of like it's like Batman versus Superman and Civil War, they're very similar films. And then this is kind of similar to Zootopia in terms of they're both animal films. I mean, they can support two, but it'll limit its box office, I think. We'll see. But 40 million isn't too far off from your 50 million.
If HSX is to be believed, or if they're closer, then, we're both way off.
Yeah. Although, they've been way off before, too.
Okay.
They were way off on Independence Day, Resurgence.
Okay.
So we'll see.
All right. So Mike and Dave, I had it higher than you. You really were betting on this movie to fail, which you had it at 5 million. I'm saying, no, I don't think so. It's a comedy. It has Zac Efron, Anna Kendricks. Those two will do better than 5. Then there's The Secret Life of Pets. We both could be low. Me 50, you 40, but I think we could be low on that.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we'll come back next week and see how we did on our predictions.
I'll see you guys next week.